Triglycerides, so much excitement. Let's move on. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Live Healthy, Look Good. I'm glad to see you. Actually, I don't see you. I will see the number of views in the video soon or later, because I must say one thing. I mean 2 videos ago I left a poll asking what type of fat you think it's bad that you really don't have to eat in your diet, or at least you should avoid as much as possible. And I left this poll and I forgot to check the results of this poll. So I don't know what you have voted. Apologies about that. That's not important, because I'm going to tell you today what these fats are. I'm going to tell you all the types of fats that we can eat in our diet, and I'm going to tell you a few differences between each others and where you can find them in majority. So, like glycogens for carbohydrates are the stored version of sugars, basically. Triglycerides is a stored form of fat. Triglycerides are made by one molecule of glycerol and 3 fatty acids, or acids, which is what I'm going to talk about today. Obviously, this is the stored fats are the ones that we can see everywhere we have some fat in excess, or not necessarily in excess, wherever we have fat, because as we have noticed from the previous video, if you haven't watched, I shouldn't use notice, we have talked about in the previous video, fat is needed, so not necessarily always in excess. Actually, sometimes it really has to be there, and if it's not, you should be concerned about. Well, obviously, we are talking about small amounts. So let's move on. There are 3 main types of fatty acids or fats, and these are unsaturated fats, saturated fats, and transgenic fats. Then, because the unsaturated fats are divided in 2 different categories, the monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fats, I would say there are 4 types of fats. But basically, the mono and polyunsaturated ones, they go together very well. And also I must say that also the saturated fats are always in a certain percentage present wherever the unsaturated fats are, and vice versa. Okay, it's not always, at least not very often. I have never seen, I've seen food with very low amount of some fats and very high amount of other fats, but they are always more or less together. It's very unlikely to find something that only has unsaturated fat or saturated fat. Okay, even the coconut oil, which has I think 95 or 98% of these fats are saturated, there is still a little percentage that is not saturated. If I'm not wrong, I'm talking from my memory. But anyway, so let's talk about these 3 types of fats. Unsaturated fats. First thing, before I tell you about the unsaturated fat, the key difference between these 3 types of fat is the amount of density of hydrogen present in these fats. Okay, saturated means that they are saturated with hydrogen. Obviously, the maximum possible amount of hydrogen that this fat can contain is present in saturated fat, while the unsaturated fats are the ones with less amount of hydrogen. How would you distinguish between a saturated and an unsaturated fat? The difference is very obvious, and now that I will tell you, you will find out very quickly how to find out what type of fat you have. So, unsaturated fats are the ones that tend not to solidify at low temperature. or I should say, at room temperature, they are liquid. Okay? Why? The more saturated they are, the more likely it is that they are solid at room temperature. So let's talk about the butter or coconut oil. If you ever had it, you would know the cold pressed one, which is the healthiest, which by the way is not healthy at all. It's worse than the palm oil, even though now media say it's like a superfood. People should just take a bath into saturated fat, into coconut oil, and maybe even drink it as they take the bath. Obviously, provided that they use a bio or yeah, I think it's bio whatever the thing that makes the foam. You know, I don't know the name of it. It's not a shampoo. It's a bath soap, probably. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Please don't do it. Okay. I've seen a video of a guy taking a bath into Nutella, though. So you know. But by the way, I forgot what I was saying. Talk too much. I think I was saying, yeah, so room temperature it's solid, room temperature is liquid. Unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature, saturated fats are solid at room temperature. If you increase the temperature, they melt. Like, for instance, I'm pretty sure you have tried, or if you haven't, you have seen, if you melt butter in a pan or a pot or whatever, it melts, it becomes liquid with the fire. And then it burns, but that's another story. And so exactly happens for the coconut oil. If you take a spoon of coconut oil, it's solid. If you put it on something hot, it would become liquid. But then if you let it cool down, it will become solid again. Those are saturated. Olive oil, which is liquid at room temperature, is unsaturated fat. Now, I would say that the main difference between monounsaturated and polysaturated fats is that the monounsaturated fat has slightly more hydrogen than the polyunsaturated fat, so it tends to solidify a little bit more easily at low temperature than the polyunsaturated. But I wouldn't really make such a big topic about the two because they go really together more than saturated and unsaturated fat. They are present prevalently in vegetables and in obviously the oils made through vegetables. Obviously because of this they are also present in nuts, seeds, and the polyunsaturated fats in this case are the ones that are essential, like for instance the omega-3, the omega-6 and the omega-9, which I've mentioned in the previous video roughly. Now omega-3, which is the most difficult fatty acid to take from food, and it's essential, so we need it, are usually present in fatty fish like salmon, provided that salmon is not fed by cereals. So yeah, if you buy salmon from the supermarket from a farming of salmons, it's probably not rich in omega-3. They still have some, probably, but not rich. And if you eat a wild salmon, probably it's difficult unless you're a bear. It's difficult even for bears, I believe. But though, fatty fish. Sardines is another fatty fish. And they also seem to be rich in creatine. So if you are a bodybuilder and you are tired of taking your scoop of creatine powder that you buy, thankfully I understand it's not the most expensive supplement, and probably is one of the only supplements that we know that works by saturating your muscles of water. Though anyway, no, it does other things, but that's not the topic. So anyway, sardines also, or sardines also come with creatine, which is a plus, which is not a fat, and I'm not going to talk about it, not today at least. But if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, you may still eat these kind of fats from vegetable sources like the line seeds, which is something that I eat, not that I'm a vegetarian, but I do eat line seeds. They are also in pumpkin seeds, and they are in some nuts as well. These are the three that come in my mind at the moment. There is probably more. If you want to know more, just please leave me a question and I will make a better list if I'm not complete now. And these are the unsaturated fats. Obviously, the omega-6 and omega-9, they are present in the vast majority of these unsaturated fats. Olive oil is the unsaturated fat that we all know and we all use, and avocado also is an unsaturated fat, though it's solid, but that's for other reasons, because it's more of a vegetable, so it contains fiber and other things, but it's still an unsaturated fat. And it's very healthy. It's not that superfood, because superfood doesn't exist, so just so you know, superfood is just made by media. It's a food with some benefits and some things that wouldn't be necessarily a benefit. It depends if you want to advertise it or if you want to demolish it. That's exactly what happens with superfoods. Superfoods are at the moment considered super, but in reality it's just because they are high in some micro or macronutrient that is related to something really beneficial. I'm pretty sure they also have, they are rich in other micro or macronutrients that are related to something that is not beneficial, but it's just not mentioned. That's like every other food, okay? There's not so much food that is so horribly bad, except for the transgenic fats, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The saturated fats are usually present in animals in greater amount, but as we have seen, they are also present in vegetables like the coconut oil and also the palm oil, but not as much as the coconut does. Coconut oil is really, really high in saturated fat. And these are the ones that are connected to heart diseases and high cholesterol. And I'm going to tell you exactly why in the next video. But so that's why they are recommended to be taken in low daily dosage. You still need them because at the end of the day, you give something to your body that your body needs. So yeah, you can consume them. You can still eat saturated fats, and they are present, for instance, in beef or every meat which has fat, except for the fish. We have seen that, but even fish has saturated fat, but they're more present in butter, which is an animal product, milk, beef. Beef also contains natural transgenic fat, not very much. And yes, so this is the fat that you want to take, but not too much, okay? And between saturated and unsaturated fats, I would recommend, if you can download one of those free apps for tracking your macronutrients and calories, I would recommend to stay between 20 and 35% of your daily intake of calories of fats, okay, because they are needed. But then let's talk about the bad ones. The answer for the poll, transgenic fats. Obviously, saturated fats, as I said, they are high in hydrogen, and transgenic fats are also known as hydrogenated fats, like margarine or margarine. I don't know how you call it in English, but that thing that looks like butter, but it's vegetable. What happens to them? They are filled up with hydrogen artificially. So they are unsaturated fats, like the olive oil, filled up with hydrogen. And these are the ones that apparently are really detrimental for your health. They, unlike the other two, they really increase your bad cholesterol and decrease the good one. So that's not really what you want to have in your body. And the unfortunate thing of this, I think I was mentioning it in the 2 videos ago, is that in some countries it's not mandatory to write their amount, their presence or their amount in the label. So because they're not saturated fats, because they're not saturated, they're not considered as such, at least, they still appear as fats, and they are misleading, because if a person, the majority doesn't, but a person checks the label and says, oh, I don't want to have too many saturated fats, they would not appear there, but they are saturated, artificially saturated, which behave differently than the natural saturated fats. Exactly because the artificially saturated fats as I said, decrease the good cholesterol and increase the bad one, while the saturated fats just do one of these two things, so it's slightly better. And they are usually used in the baking industry, so you know now, from now on, that if you buy something made by a bakery, like mainly sweet things, biscuits or cakes or this, you know, the pastry, it's possible that it's made with transgenic fats. So as I said probably in other videos, I would never recommend to eat processed food. So the more unprocessed you buy something and the more you process it, the better you know what's inside of it and the better you know that you're eating something healthy. Okay? Then what else should I say? Nothing else. I think I made a very short video, hopefully. I don't know, because then I talk and talk and talk and I never realize how long I make them till I edit. But though, yeah, this is pretty much it. So resuming everything, you need unsaturated fats and saturated fats. You need to keep the saturated fats up to a certain level. For men it's 30 grams per day. For women I think it's 20 grams per day or 25. I think I said that 2 videos ago, so just please check. This is the recommendation in the UK at least, and you need fats to be part of your daily diet, and they need to contribute between 20 and 35% of your daily intake of calories. Just consider that they are 9 kilocalories per gram, so obviously they quickly contribute with this 25%, which is what I take. I take 25% roughly, but sometimes I go 29, 30. I never go to 35 and I never go to 20. So they contribute very quickly. So if you are not hungry and you need to boost up your calories a little bit, just eat some fats and they will take your calories to where they need to be. Obviously it's not working the other way around if you don't, or unless you don't eat them, but they need to be still between 20 and 35%, at least by obviously the recommendation of the UK. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope now you know how to distinguish saturated from unsaturated, so liquid and solid, at room temperature. And so please, if you enjoyed it, just click the like button down there. If you haven't done it yet, just click the subscribe button. There is also the bell ring icon, which will notify you if you click on it whenever I publish a new video. Don't forget to leave comments. You can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter. Yeah, it's not difficult. You will find me if you go on my website, which is down there again. You will see all my social media presence, and then you can follow me there as well. Sometimes on Facebook I publish something that I don't mention in this video, like for instance I've been publishing my some of my meals, and I've made a comparison between a light product and a fat product, which I was demolishing the light one basically, and that's on Facebook. So yes, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to live healthy so that you will eventually look good. Bye.